You've got the candles burning. You've got the wine, the chocolate, the flowers. You've set the table for romance. But I hate to break it to you. If your hormones are out of whack, no fires are being lit tonight, my friends. So let's talk about sex and how to make sure your whole body is complying. And that really starts from looking at the inside out. My guest this week is Dr. Aamina Shah. She's a pharmacist and a certified hormone specialist, and she's been helping patients on their hormone journey for the last 3 years. She's the pharmacist in charge at the Remedy Pharma, a holistic and integrative compounding pharmacy and nutrition center in Torrance, California. And she discovered that after many years of being a retail pharmacist, that she really wanted to help patients take active control over their hormone health and educate them on how much hormones play a role in your complete well-being, your emotional health, and your physiological body health. Dr. Shah is also the host of Remedy Pharma Health, a health radio show where she interviews natural health professionals to find out how to help the body and mind as a whole instead of merely treating symptoms. Found on healthylife.net, she's also the host of the Remedy Pharma Health Minute, a YouTube show with tidbits of useful nutritional and pharmacy information for everyday health. I'm here to tell you, especially after talking to Dr. Shah, it's not as easy as just popping a pill. You got to take care of your diet, and you've got to do the right tests to make sure you understand what you're working with. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So if you want to save your sex life and maybe your relationships, this is a must listen to. Let's dive in. Hi, I'm Maria, otherwise known as the Fit Foodie. I'm a chef, holistic nutritionist, author, inventor, and mom. And I want to welcome you to my podcast. It's called Recipes for Your Best Life. And with every episode, I'm peeling back the onion on fitness, nutrition, health, wellness, and family. The truth is, you're the chef of your life. And for every important pillar, there's a great recipe worth sharing. So every week, we'll explore them together. Think of it as food for thought that you can really sink your teeth into. So join me, and let's squeeze the joy out of this life, because you only get one. Can I get a fork, yeah? Aamina, it's so good to have you.
Thank you so much, Maria. It's really exciting to be here. I'm so happy we're able to connect.
Yeah, I think your background is very interesting. My mom was a pharmacist, and so I really grew up in a household understanding what she was going through. And I think oftentimes she became very interested in other topics from a non-prescription kind of way. And I think you shared with me that hormones are the same for you. Can you just share a little bit about why you took such an interest in women's hormones?
Absolutely. So I started my career off as a retail pharmacist. I did a lot of consultations with patients, and it was a lot of just, giving them medicines to treat what they're going through, right? So treating symptoms, not treating the underlying cause. So I came to a point in my life where I was like, there's got to be more to this. And I found the Remedy Pharma, and over here, we just specialize in bioidentical hormone replacement. And it's just deep dive into men and women's hormones and really what they're all about, how they affect our life, how they affect us emotionally, how they affect us physiologically, and every little thing that they do and all the different parts of our life that they play a role in that people don't really realize. And that's kind of where I got really, really excited about it, because there was a lot of things that they teach you in Western medicine and schooling where they don't teach you this stuff. Yeah. Can you believe it? So they didn't really teach the in-depth about what hormones are, where to go, how much the thyroid hormone, for example, plays a role in your sex hormones. Like, did you know that the sex hormones develop from your cholesterol? So everyone's like really gung-ho, lower your cholesterol, but you don't want it to be too low, because then your sex hormones take a hit.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting, because I think for most people, when they hear, let's just even backtrack and talk about hormones in general. Because I think when people hear hormones or hormonal, instantly they think of certain things. They think of adolescence, right?
Mhm.
And going through puberty. They
Absolutely.
think of, maybe menopause. They
Absolutely.
think
Number one.
of course, menstruation and being
And
there for
pregnancy.
girls to pregnancy.
Yeah.
But hormones play such a vital role in everything. And you just touched on cholesterol affecting your sex hormones. So let's talk about that a little bit, because as we try and get other systems in our body regulated and maybe more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
it could be impacting something that is really important too, right?
Absolutely. So what's always recommended, what I recommend for my patients is, you get blood work done at the doctor's office, which is great. It's a great baseline, good way to start. But to get the nitty gritty of your hormones, because they are absorbed in fat cells, saliva test is really the way to go. That's where where your free hormones, like your free testosterone, your progesterone, your estrogen, your DHEAS, like where that's sitting, what levels it's at, not just running around your bloodstream, where it's actually being absorbed and eliciting a response in your body. So it's a really good idea to get a saliva test. And we love saliva tests here. We feel that they're very, very, they really work well, and they really kind of give you a good insight of where you are hormone-wise. And then that way you can see where your hormones are, and if other things that you're doing in your daily life, like exercising, dieting, if you're on extremes of these things, that affects your hormones, believe it or not.
So a saliva test is something you recommend. Is that something that you have to request from your doctor, or is that do they usually just use blood tests and then you have to request a saliva test?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that a lot of doctors, they will do the blood work or a blood test. Mostly you would have to say, hey, can I get a saliva test? Pharmacies like mine, the Remedy Farm, we have saliva tests and kits available. You can just walk in and request one.
What if somebody's not in the area? Can they request one from you if they're in a different geography?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And we can mail it out nationwide. It has everything in the kit, and then we'll consult them on how to use it, what to do, and what to expect, and when to get the results and everything. Absolutely.
That's great. And for everybody listening, we'll include a link to your website in the show notes so people know how to do that. Let's talk a little bit about those other markers that, you take a look at. So if cholesterol dips too low, and that's your blood cholesterol, it can impact your sex drive.
Oh, definitely. Because your sex hormones derive from that. The cholesterol, goes to pregnenolone, and that's kind of the cascade to get to all of your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone. Believe it or not, men have estrogen too. And women have testosterone. It's kind of something that people don't really, think about. Absolutely. And the other thing is that your sex hormones, and I'm going to get into that as well, that they are responsible for so many different functions in your body. You'd be like mind blown. Mm-hmm. Like estrogen has over 400 functions. Did you know that it helps with bone health? It helps with your eye health, like among other things as well. So it's pretty cool. Even with progesterone, like without progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and even DHEA, your bone loss would be like through the roof. It helps with your bones as well. So there's like a lot of really cool things that your hormones do for you that people just kind of don't realize or think about. So sexual dysfunction, we talk about that so much. One of the main things you'll think about is testosterone. So if you have low testosterone in women, let's start with women, you can see some vaginal dryness. Even with low estrogen, you'll have low libido, that kind of stuff. So testosterone also helps with your mood. It helps with your foggy thinking. There's just so many different roles it plays. Estrogen specifically, as we get older, women, estrogen is produced in your ovaries as well. And as you get older, it's going to decrease naturally, right? So if your estrogen levels are low, guess what? You're going to start feeling the effects of that. That's what we call menopause, right? The telltale symptoms, the hot flashes, the dry skin, the foggy thinking, all of the low libido, your night sweats, all of that, like telltale signs you're seeing in the menopause type. So, and women, a lot of women, they see that as their estrogen is decreasing, you might even see infections. Vaginal infections more frequently as well. Lots of vaginal dryness, a lot of vaginal, what they call atrophy. And that's when your vagina is changing. And that kind of, a lot of women have painful sex. It's just,
I can just see all the women and the men out there right now listening going, holy crap, this is like
check, right?
I don't want any of this if they don't have it. And if they do have it, they're like, holy crap, please tell me how to fix this.
Absolutely, yes. And we want to.
So, but before we do that, cliffhanger here, I need to share a personal story because last year, right about when COVID hit, I had just gotten remarried. And I had been on my own, single mom for a little over 13 years. And it's like, being in that kind of environment, let's just say things turn on, okay? And it's funny because I was sort of experiencing some perimenopausal symptoms. And about maybe 2 months into COVID, it really hit the night sweats and the everything, the stress, the feelings of anxiety, just feeling very like I was on an emotional roller coaster. And I really started paying attention to my diet. I eat clean, but I really started to hone in on the foods that I was researching that actually help with menopausal symptoms. And guess what happened? I got my period back, like ritually.
Would you eat?
Everything went away. So I know for a fact, just in terms of me as a guinea pig, that it works when you really hone in and pay attention. What do you tell your patients when they're like, I'm experiencing this, that, and the other? What's the first thing that you recommend?
There's so many things we recommend. I mean, number one, we always recommend is a saliva test because we want to see where the numbers fit with what their symptoms are. We never treat the numbers, we treat the symptoms, but we really want to see where they're at because there's a couple of things that go on. Your estrogen and progesterone have to be in a certain ratio with each other. Otherwise, it kind of throws off your cycle and makes you think that you have symptoms that you may not. So if you have something like low progesterone, high estrogen, you're going to be something called estrogen dominant, and you're going to display symptoms of having too much estrogen, for example.
And what does that look like when you have too much?
Like breast swelling, breast tenderness, some weight gain, as we get older, then people start getting that little belly pouch too, right? Yeah. And the best thing about the saliva test, I know I keep going back to it, is that it also tests your cortisol levels throughout the day. So it's 4 cortisol levels throughout the day. And that kind of shows your fight or flight response. That tells you how anxious you've been, how much stress you're enduring, what kind of stress management systems you have in place, right? Because stress management plays a big role in your hormone cascade as well. Because if you're high stress, it's pulling progesterone to satisfy that need. Your progesterone is, decreasing and you're not realizing these things. So, and then in fact, like I told you before, that this impacts so many different things. It's amazing. Your thyroid gets impacted, your insulin sensitivity. So as we get older, we start realizing, hey, I'm not metabolizing like I used to. Mm-hmm. My glucose is going through the roof. I'm not sensitive anymore. What's happening? And some of these things are to blame, right? The way we manage our stress, the way we are, managing our sex hormones. So number one, that's the first thing I do. We're also a complete nutrition center here. We have a lot of organic products. We have only professional lines over here, and we dabble in a lot of herbal products, a lot of homeopathics, and also like adaptogens, which are really amazing things. We can go into that another day. But we have a few.
I'm a big fan, and I talk about them a lot because we need them so much to avoid adrenal fatigue, which is also part of that whole system.
Oh yeah. And we have a great product that a few of our doctors really recommend for adrenal insufficiency and adrenal fatigue, that whole phenomenon, which is a really great product. The Dr. Wilson's line is wonderful. We also have, if you want to try to do some natural stuff, we have a few homeopathic products that we do pick out for some patients. And we also have a greens product that's basically just, you think about it, all the green leafy vegetables you can think of in a capsule if they don't want to eat it.
Yeah.
But we all know that we want to be eating them more than anything else. But
have you ever wondered, is rinsing my produce with the water that comes out of the sink that I don't even drink enough to really clean it? Well, then you're one of the smartest people I know, because you're absolutely right. It's not enough. That's why we created the only all-natural and patented line of food wash and wipes, and it's called Eat Cleaner. It's tasteless, odorless, and lab tested, and it removes up to 99.9% of the residue that water can't, including pesticides, wax, soil, and